Hello and welcome to the FISHCAST, the first and foremost Fishmans podcast. I usually do not do these intros, but I was volunteered by Ray to introduce the FISHCAST.
How's it going, guys? We are back for probably our most important episode yet because we're talking about long season.
It's going to be our best episode, let me tell you.
And we are joined once again by Mr. Jake, Mr. One Chops from the UK.
Hello.
I think the last episode you were on was Neo Yankees Holiday, so you're probably happy to be on, like, a better episode.
The most important episode, mind you.
Yeah, it's an honor to be on this one, definitely. And that one.
Of course.
And all of them.
You got to talk about Neo Yankees, but that's just crazy because I always forget, like, how quickly the band, like, how quickly their career progressed, I guess. Because between Neo Yankees Holiday and this, there were only, like, 2 studio albums and 1 live album.
Yeah.
And we're already here, and it feels like, I don't know, we've been doing this podcast all year, but it just feels like it's come on us very quickly. Yeah. And here we are.
Here we are.
All right, so we have a little bit of news to get out of the way before we get into the album. So, I mean, a few times throughout this year, we found out that different celebrities or musicians are, like, fans of Fishmans, most notably, like, Eric Andre, Billie Eilish, and her brother. But now, I guess we found out that famous Swedish YouTuber PewDiePie is also a fan of the band.
We should mention, actually, I'm not going to say what I'm going to say. PewDiePie likes Fishmans.
So how did we find this out, Chris? What happened?
People found his Spotify account, although I'm not sure why people hadn't found it sooner, or maybe the right people had found it, and they found what he was listening to was a mixture of what people would consider rate your music type artists, mixed with a lot of, like, hyper pop and, like, Drain Gang artists.
This guy had, like, JPEG Mafia, AG Cook, 100 Gex, Have a Nice Life.
Rina Sawayama.
I was like, oh my god, that's just what I listen to.
True, but I saw, or other people as well, saw he was following the band Fishmans. Which, you don't just follow someone on Spotify just because. Unless you like them. So clearly, PewDiePie, you know.
So, I mean, and I was on Rate Your Music earlier today on the long season page, and I already saw a few comments where they're like, oh, PewDiePie sent me here. And I don't know, like, how serious this is, or if there are actual, like, PewDiePie fans who are finding out about the band because of this. But, I mean, I don't know. Like, a lot of people have problems with PewDiePie, including us.
But we will just say that we welcome people that aren't PewDiePie to the podcast.
If you're PewDiePie, don't listen to our podcast. But if you are a fan of PewDiePie, come on.
How do you feel about this, Jake?
I mean, I've already heard that the comment section of all the, like, hyperpop artists he was listening to have already been getting swamped. So
with some, like, hateful shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
I that's true.
See why people would want to gatekeep in this case.
I feel that. Yeah. Okay. But if you're not one of those people,
hopefully. Yeah. If you are, come into the fold and try and become not like that, please. We'll embrace you if you mellow out some.
Yeah, it's like a church. Church of fish. Right.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's
Fishmans
just cool
is a church.
to see, like, more people coming into the fandom. It's just like, I don't know, this is a particularly meme-y period, it feels like.
And it just feels kind of strange. No one were to see this coming.
Well, and also, I mean, he is, like, I don't know if he's still the biggest YouTuber. He's one of them, right? In terms of, like, subscriber count?
The biggest single one, yeah.
Single one, yeah. So that's, I don't know, it's just, like, strange to think that he's listening to Fishmans.
Good for him.
Wow, we've blown up. We've hit the mainstream. Incredible.
It's not our
anything else about PewDiePie, it's not really that important.
First Fishmans get more Spotify listeners than Swans, and now this. We're on the up and up.
Yeah, that happened too. Because Fishmans have a little bit over, like, 200,000 monthly, I think. And Swans only have, like, upward, like, 100,000. It's kind of insane to me. But I guess, I don't know, maybe Fishmans have more of, like, a global kind of reach. Whereas Swans is just, like, for white kids in the suburbs.
Maybe so.
I'm a white kid in the suburbs.
And you listen to Swans. Okay, so moving on to some other news that isn't really news. Kyle or Silver from the Fishmans Discord server came up with one of those, like, conspiracy iceberg charts for the band. And I'm not sure if all of our listeners know what I'm talking about, but it's sort of this image that shows a huge iceberg with, like, one tiny part of it out over the water, and the rest of the iceberg is submerged. And then you kind of put down, like, facts or trivia about the band going down the iceberg, and as you go further and further down, they get more, like, obscure or kind of strange or, like, conspiracy-like. So some of them were pretty funny. Like near the top, we had the obvious stuff that pretty much any fan of the band would know, like Hanzi died of cancer, and like the Aphex Twin sample on the Liquid Room version of Doyobi no Yoru. But going down, we get some stuff like Uchu Nippon Setagaya is actually a Shinji solo album.
Which I don't want to argue for, but if someone were to find, I would have to listen.
Do you know about this theory? Like, what is it implying?
I'm not sure if many of these theories are really like
Theories?
Things that a lot of people hold true, but
is the idea that he was like channeling more of what he wanted to do into that album?
I think that's what people think of, but like I don't know if that warrants
the rest of the band's
album.
still playing on the album.
Like, would you consider Pet Sounds a Brian Wilson solo album? If you would, then you would consider Uchu a Shinji Sato solo album. But Jake, do you consider Pet Sounds a Brian Wilson solo album?
I don't see why not. I think with the Uchi thing, like, in the defense, I don't like remember any Kashiwa bass lines on it, like any of the particularly really memorable ones. So maybe Shinji tracked everything, and that's why it's a little bit less.
Bro, walking in the rhythm.
Other than that, though, I see what you mean.
But yeah, no, that's kind of true. I think there's
Hum it.
Do 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 do. Oh, we're kind of doing it at the same time. But either way, fine.
No, but I get that's true. I've heard
maybe.
people say the same thing about Hachigatsu, where they're like, this was Shinji's vision for the band, like realized in its purest form. So I don't know, maybe that one has some
interesting.
credit to it. Another one that I saw that sort of shouted out our podcast was Neo Yankees Holiday is a concept album about baseball.
Oh yeah, Kyle directly mentioned that this was that was a result of like him hearing us talk about.
And I don't know if we said that it was like a concept album, but it definitely has like a baseball sort of through line.
I guess another thing Kyle took from us was our lyric analysis of Subarashikute Nice Choice being about like a ghost.
Yeah.
I forgot what we said.
Yeah,
but we said
it's like Shinji is singing from the perspective of a ghost, yeah.
Yeah, that was another one.
So then once we get down to the very bottom of the iceberg, we get the really strange theories. One of these was Yuzuru's eyebrows are real. And I saw this and I thought, like, is it a common thing that people think his eyebrows are fake?
They look him on stage, they're like,
he has some, like, big-ass eyebrows, though, so maybe people thought it was all a show.
I mean... Okay.
And then we have two more. There's the Shinji ironic ethnocentrism theory.
What?
I mean, where do you even
Shinji
get
would
that?
never.
Shinji would never be an ethnocentrist.
He wouldn't be a
He's such a
centrist
good
of any
boy.
kind.
He would never.
Yeah.
Okay, but this was my absolute favorite. It was every Fishman song was written pre-1987, or the Fishman's premeditation theory. So I guess according to this theory, the band formed, and then they sat down before actually recording anything. They planned out their whole discography, and they just wrote every song. I mean, they included like a progression of ideas, you know? It's not like they were writing every album to be the same. And then I guess they just recorded them all, and then...
Over the course of like 10 years.
And maybe in this theory, like Shinji even knew that he was gonna die, because he didn't bother writing any albums that went beyond that.
Yeah, like they played the show live in 1988 thinking like, wow, I can't wait to record Long Season in
Shinji's sitting down, he's like, so we're gonna make all these albums, we're gonna play this final concert, and then I'm gonna die, and yeah, that'll be the band.
I'm just thinking about them sitting around being like, okay, we're gonna make a reggae album.
It's really funny.
It's really funny.
But these are all
Then we're gonna make whatever Kingmaster is.
Yeah, then they're like, yeah, for a second album, it's Kingmaster George. Just trust me on this one, okay, guys? We're gonna have a song called Reindeer, and just hear me out.
Love it. So I don't know. I love the chart. I'll probably end up posting it on our Instagram so people can see it if you're not like on Discord. But yeah, shout out to Kyle for making that.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love you, Kyle.
Some fun trivia.
I have a question for you, Jake. Mostly just because I know you might know more Fishmans than me. Is it confirmed that Strawberry Fields Forever played after 98? 12/28, of course.
Oh.
Is that like, do people say
I
that
really
a
don't
lot?
know. It's a rumor. I've actually only heard from one source, so I really couldn't say.
Okay, I thought maybe you would know more than I did, but okay, that was also on there.
I might be able to ask somebody.
I'll ask.
Damn, they actually played Creep by Radiohead on a loop for like 3 hours, and everyone who went to the show just kind of like stood there and cried.
That sounds a little more believable.
All right, so
Okay.
let's get into the
Add
main...
that to the iceberg.
Yeah, honestly, we said it here. It's an official theory now. So we're getting into the main thrust of the episode.
Yeah.
Long Season, the 6th studio album by Fishmans, which also happens to be one extremely long song. Although I guess the band has also not consistently called it a studio album. On their website, it's not listed as...
They have a website?
They have a website. Yeah, I guess they called it more of like an offhand experiment instead of like an official studio album. But most people now consider it to be
Because it's even
album.
if it's an experiment, it's an experiment in an album form. I
Yeah.
think, or a song form.
And from what I understand, Long Season is
Maybe it's
pretty
a single.
much- It's a single too. Yeah. It's the most well-known and well-respected Fishmans project outside of like the '98 live album, and it's definitely their most like unique and progressive work. So I was really unsure about like how we were going to talk about it going into this episode, but I think the best way to talk about Long Season is actually to talk about Season, which is the shorter song that Long Season is based on, that the band recorded and released a couple months prior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Season.
So the band releases
Do we
Coochie
need
Camp.
adjectives for this?
No, you don't need adjectives. It's just Season. So the band releases Coochie Camp in like February '96. It becomes their best-selling work since Neo Yankees. They go on another tour. This one's called the Young but Historical Tour,
Hey.
which is a fun name. And then they get back in the studio. The sessions end up producing the Season single, which is basically the song Season and this really cool whacked-out B-side called I Dub Fish. We're not going to talk about that one. We'll talk about it later. So just Season.
I am a fish.
How do you guys feel about Season? It's kind of an interesting song because it definitely feels like a product of like the Setagaya trilogy. Like it's in that sound, but I don't know if it's really similar to any of the
It's
other
not. It's-
things they made during that time.
It's a lot. It's one of the nicer songs that they've come out with. I really love the arrangement of this song. It sounds very nice. I want to like a lot of the added vocal melodies on it are superb. I don't think it's comparable to Long Season at all, but they're two
Well,
very
even in
different
tone,
things.
they're very different. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I feel like Season is really warm. There's this really nice like acoustic guitar that's going on the whole time, and that's what kind of differentiates it from like Kuchu and Uchu for me. Is Uchu is so like spacey and kind of a bit colder, and
Kuchu does mean.
Kuchu is very like urban, and that's what we said on our last episode. But I think I don't know, Season definitely feels like you're in nature, like you're driving around through like a forest.
Hey, and so does Long Season, but in like a different way.
But yeah, Jake, what are your thoughts on Season?
I agree. They have definitely a different tone. I mean, to me, like Long Season has this weird, like, it feels like humid. It's like, it feels like the peak of summer when it's at its sweatiest. But Season, more like feels like a summer morning, I guess. It kind of feels like a bit, I don't know, sharper, a bit like
Yeah. Okay. And
Easier to
that
breathe
way
in.
they're both like summer albums, but like two different types of summer.
yeah, and two different types of like nature too.
Yeah, like Season is more of like an aspen
But
forest, like it's dry, and Long Season's like a rainforest.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I think I like Season more.
Ooh.
Damn, a hot take.
That's just me.
I don't.
Than the studio Long Season. Anyway,
Yeah, and I don't. I don't agree, but I also don't really disagree
That's fair. I mean,
either.
like,
'cause I
they're
love
so
Season
different
a lot.
that
Yeah.
I feel like you could. I don't know. Season definitely makes me feel more maybe just like pure joy. Whereas Long Season, it starts off a bit more
Yeah.
mysterious, and it eventually ends up at this place that feels like cathartic, but it never really reaches just that like pure like happiness of Season.
I guess it depends on what you're looking for. But
So just like in terms of the instrumentation, I think Season has one of my favorite Hanzi performances. Like the violin on Season is really
Ooh,
cool. It's a
so
bit more
good, yeah.
highlighted than what was going on Kuchu.
and Long Season.
And Long Season, yeah, even. Yeah, it's just I wrote that it sounds like you're laying in the back of a car on the way to a lake, and it's just you're just bouncing along.
It's fun because
Ugh.
you could say Long Season is about like someone driving. I know driving is one of the lyrics, and I know that plays kind of
And the lyrics are the same, yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's a nice little analysis there.
Oh, I had a question about the end of Season. So it sounds like birdsong, but it also could be someone whistling. I'm not really sure what.
I always thought it was someone whistling.
Yeah, like if they're whistling, they're doing a very good sort of imitation of birdsong, or it's birdsong that's just like very melodic. But it definitely adds to the vibe.
Whoever the whistler is, good job.
Nice. But yeah, the tone of the songs are very different. Yeah, Season's like brighter and more immediate. Long Season has a bit of darkness to it, I feel like, at the beginning and in the middle.
But yeah, it's a welcoming sort of darkness.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you said, like mysterious is a good way of describing it.
This is how I describe the difference between season and long season. So season is you and your friends. You're driving along in your car on the way to do shrooms in the forest. You're really excited. You're like, hey guys, it's summer. Let's go do the shrooms.
Is this about animal collecting?
And long season is when you actually do the shrooms. So it's sort of like, because it's like you take the same feelings and the same musical ideas that were going on in season, but then you kind of like stretch them out and you get to explore them in more shades, I guess.
Have you ever done shrooms?
I haven't done shrooms.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, but it definitely sounds right.
I was going to, but I haven't either.
Oh, okay. Let's
Yeah,
all do
I
it
mean,
together.
after my like edible experience that we talked about on the last episode, I don't know if I should be trying any more mind-altering substances. Anything else about season? I mean, I don't know. It's kind of hard to talk about because it's not in the context of an album.
And we also just, every time you talk about season, you have to talk about
You
long
can't
season.
separate it. I mean, honestly, when I was listening to it in prep for this episode, I thought tonally it most reminded me of Neo Yankees in terms of that like summary
Yeah, it's just like a lot better.
and
Like
different.
in execution. And it is different, but I get what you mean by tone.
Yeah. No, but I mean, so Jake, as someone who likes season more than long season, do you find yourself like listening to it more? Because I guess it is more like accessible and you can listen to it probably in more circumstances.
Yeah, when I was first discovering Fishmans, it was kind of the one I had more on frequent rotation, and let's say there's a different version of Long Season that was playing a lot more often. So I kind of neglected the
True.
studio as a result.
I feel that.
And maybe I'll get into that a bit more later. How so?
I think, yeah, it's kind of the same with me, except I didn't really know season existed. So I was listening to another version of long season as well, more than the original, but it wasn't because I was also listening to season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like season deserves more credit though, because like I don't know, I don't like how people probably only think about it in relation to long season, even though it's hard not to.
Short season.
It's the same sort of thing as how like people only think about the early Fishmans albums in terms of like this is related to their later albums, like this is them growing into that. Whereas I feel like it's better to just like appreciate it on its own.
I agree.
Because yeah,
Yeah,
if, like
celebrate the whole
if
catalog.
season was just like a shorter version of what they were doing in long season, then I could see someone writing it off. But it's
it
like
is
it's
something
totally
different.
different. Yeah. So I don't know if you're listening and you haven't really listened to season, or you listened to it once and you were like, go check it out. It's good. Cool. So after making season, band decided that their next release would be a massive single song album that expanded on the musical ideas of season. Thus the title Long Season.
When you realize where it comes from, it becomes so much fun.
It's really stupid. Like, I'm just wondering, like, if they had chosen another song to expand, would they have named it similarly?
Long, super
Long
super
Baby
nice
Blue?
shoes.
Like,
Long.
I love it.
Ooh, I listen to that.
Honestly, oh my god. Hey, that's a good question for you guys. If you could take one Fishman song that they had recorded up to the point when they made Long Season, and they stretched that song out into like a 40-minute opus, which one would you pick?
Does it have to be called long?
Intro.
Song, though?
And it has to
Intro.
be called Long. Oh my god, Long Intro.
It's just Keyboon.
Can I get
That's a great answer, yeah.
But yeah, definitely long.
Yeah,
Keyboon.
true.
But I think a slightly.
Can I get Long Seafood Restaurant?
long?
Honestly, like a lot of the shit on King Master George would be really cool because some of the songs are so short. Long Reindeer.
Ooh.
Ooh.
That's just like Miles Davis's like late period.
What's your
Long
answer though, Chris?
Reindeer.
Yeah, pretty much.
Probably Zutomai. I would love to hear that.
Honestly,
I know
yeah.
they extended it a bit, but I want to hear like a fully fleshed out, like almost 40-minute version of that song.
Yeah, because I know like the 10-minute live versions that they did of Zutomai had some really cool like orchestral parts. That'd be a 40-minute version would be like a sweet.
Ooh, yeah, that or probably like long Natsu no Omoide.
I love this idea of just like a series of long songs. Okay, but I really like the idea of taking a pre-existing song and stretching it out, just because I don't know. Like I said before, you can kind of just get these different colors and shades that were already there, but now you're just exploring them more. So here's another sort of like iceberg theory thing for you guys that like Chris and I have seen floating around recently. Apparently, it's been confirmed by people who work with the band that the impetus for making Long Season wasn't like some powerful rush of creative juices. It was rather just an issue of like writer's block and the label like fucking around.
Yeah, it was. It was not them being like, let's make
Yeah.
Long Season. More like a contractual obligation
So,
that they needed to make another album.
According to the
No
story,
way.
Polydor Records, they had signed Fishmans for Kuchu Camp, right? And they were expecting the band to make 3 albums in just 2 years. But the band had just made Kuchu, they had gone on tour, and they felt like creatively drained, but they needed to deliver something to their label. So I guess that's why they made Long Season. They just made a new version of a pre-existing song and kind of released it to fill their contract. So like, I don't know, how do you guys feel about this? I feel like initially I felt like it cheapened the work because...
I don't think it enhances it, but I don't think it ruins it either. I think at first it's kind of like, oh, well, that sucks. But then you realize that they still made something like incredible out of it. I don't think it really matters.
I think it might be that interesting case where like the artist's view of their own work and the public's view might be very different. Because if you ask most people what Fishman's greatest work is, they're going to say Long Season. But I feel like maybe the members of Fishman's would say that now, but at the time they probably would have been like, we just made it.
It was an experiment to get them out of this obligation. And
it's really funny, guys.
Yeah, but without it, we wouldn't have the greatest song ever made.
Yeah.
So, I mean, good for them.
Crazy thought. Yeah. That's why I come on this podcast. Because you guys can blow my mind with some stuff like this.
Yeah, thanks, Ray.
Yeah, and I think this has been pretty much confirmed. I mean, like, I know it
Please
was on...
keep it quiet.
It was on the wiki.
Was it?
Yeah, it's Minoru, the guy who does the voice on I Dub Fish.
Okay.
Yeah,
if it's on the wiki, then...
It's on the wiki. He said that this was the case. So yeah, A Long Season was released it was recorded in the summer of 1996 and released in October of that year. It was the shortest Fishmans album to date with a length of only 35 minutes. However, it was their longest song because it's only one song. Mm-hmm. Long Season saw the return of longtime producer Zach, who is now essentially another member of the band. He'd been producing everything since Neo Yankees. And violinist and keyboardist Hansi would return following Kuchu Camp. But this is sort of where the Setagaya trilogy fills out the lineup of Fishmans with the addition of Michio Darts Sekiguchi, who would become the touring guitarist for every Fishmans show following this. And the vocalist Mari Mari, who had previously done some background work on O Mountain, but this is really where she's like brought into the fold.
True, but I mean,
it was her.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know what part you're thinking of. There's a lot of featured vocalists on this track, and
the main one in part 2.
the main one is
Yeah.
not Mari Mari.
That's UA, apparently.
So I'm not really sure where Mari Mari is on this. I mean, she's just credited for like chorus, so I guess she's just.
Because I was thinking...
What's up?
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Listening back to this, I was like, I don't remember this part where this woman goes like all great gig in the sky.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And
It's Great
starts,
Gig in
like,
the
where-
Sky, just like worse.
And I was thinking, is it Mari Mari? And I feel like it must be.
It's... Mari Mari doesn't really sound
It's not,
like
yeah, because
that.
I went because UA is also credited
True.
for vocals, and I went and listened to her stuff, and she has like that very deep voice. I think on the actual on the Wikipedia page for the album, it says that UA contributed hearty feminine vocals,
And that sounds about right.
and that sounds like what's going on in that section. But yeah, who knows?
And
really.
also, I do remember asking Mr. Silver himself, and I believe he confirmed it was UA.
maybe it's Shinji.
Shinji provides hearty female vocals on Long Season, of course.
Ooh, so let's talk about this.
It does sound like him for a second.
Album cover.
Yeah. Oh, hey,
Grab the vinyl. We have the vinyl right here because Chris owns it.
I will just flex for a second and say I do own a copy of Long Season by Fishmans, the seminal 1996 album, on vinyl. And
So,
it was expensive.
You know, this sort of continues the trend for the Setagaya trilogy covers where we have our core 3 members of Shinji, Motegi, and Yuzuru. Except this time they're standing on a place you can actually visit. It's this path, which has been identified as being near Mitakeiko Bridge in Ome, Tokyo. So the bridge itself in the background was destroyed by a typhoon, but I
Rest
guess
in peace.
the path is still there.
Yeah, I think that's what I've heard.
And can you still access the path, or did you need to walk on the bridge to get to it?
I believe you can still access the path. I am not super knowledgeable in that. I know people are still kind of talking about it, figuring out exactly where it is, but...
This is the ultimate goal of the Fishcast. We're gonna fly to Japan. We're gonna go find this path. Yeah.
Yes.
And you can come too, Jake, and then we can do like
we need a third member.
a third member. We'll just stand there,
Oh
get
my
some
God.
fishing rods. We'll do it.
For a while, I didn't know they were
Incredible.
holding fishing rods. I thought they were just walking, but no, they got fishing rods. I feel a lot dumber once I figured that out.
The back cover is also really cool. So we get, I think it was shot probably near the same place. Sort of like this little stream with some rocks, and they've set up like recording equipment around it. Like we see some microphones and headphones.
Are those like percussion instruments right
And
there?
percussion instruments, yeah. So I guess this sort of implies that a lot of the water sounds and like splashy stuff on the song was recorded live. Like they're not sampling stuff. They actually went out to
Yeah,
some
which
water.
is really cool. And there's also another iconic image. It's one of the inserts. And I believe it's the picture that shows up when you look them up on like Last FM. You got a picture. It's a picture of the band where all the recording equipment is, and they're all just kind of sitting together. Oh, look at Shinji. He's got a little hat on. They all got their hats. They're just sitting there by the stream. Okay, and that's about it. I just think it's a nice little addition as well.
It's cool. It's sort of like they're doing some experimental recording techniques that play into the way the album was built. And collaborators of the band, like Minoru, have also stated that Long Season was never really recorded or practiced in its entirety up to like when they made the album and when they performed it live. Rather, like the different sections were recorded independently and they were stitched together by Zach in the production phase, almost in a similar way to how they made their live studio albums, where they would kind of just record a lot of stuff and then Zach would like Frankenstein monster it.
Yeah, and that's
like,
what I've heard.
thing.
That Long Season was like a big like exercise in like production, because Zach was like the main producer, but there's also a team of other producers that helped like just kind of put this all together.
It's almost like a plunderphonics kind of approach. Like I know he's not pulling like samples from a variety of places, but it's this idea of maybe like they didn't know what was going to come out of it early on, so they just recorded a lot of stuff and then he kind of just assembled it.
Good job, Zach.
Zach is honestly like the MVP of Fishmans.
The fourth Fishman.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Like right above Hanzi, I would say. I think he's had greater contribution than Hanzi. Would you say? I don't know.
Well, it's so different, right?
It is,
Because
yeah.
Zach is playing more of a like important role, I guess I would say. But Hanzi has more like moments you could signal out. And be like,
I mean,
this
to
is
be fair,
good.
Zach did produce the Walking in the Rhythm remixes.
He also produced Neo Yankees Holiday.
That's true. So really, I don't know.
Cool.
Hey, be nice to Neo Yankees.
Yeah, we will.
Good cover art. It doesn't say it on yours because I think it's like just the sleeve that says it.
It's a sticker. That
The sticker, yeah, but there's a little sticker that has a fish and it says, "We are not Four Seasons." What does that mean?
Well, they're not 4 seasons. That's for sure.
I don't know. How do you guys feel like this stacks up with the other Setagaya album covers?
It's my second favorite.
Behind
Uchi. Uchi's like my favorite album cover
Okay,
ever.
Chops?
It's like best thing ever. What do you think?
Ooh.
or just
I don't
album
know,
covers in general for Fishmans?
It fit. Hardcore. My favorite like Fishman's cover might be 98, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
But
Okay, well, yeah.
it's still like iconic, and I do really wanna. It makes me wanna go out to like Japan and check out the nature if it looks like that.
Or just make a pilgrimage to the path?
And you'd be like, wow,
That'd be awkward. You show up at the path
Yeah.
and there's just like a line of like white boys waiting.
Ah, god damn it! The PewDiePie fans
PewDiePie's
ruined it.
there.
PewDiePie's there. He's having a meet
Oh,
and greet there. He's
God.
like, hey guys.
All right. No, I like the cover. I feel like, I don't know. I'll get into it later when we talk about the music, but I feel like it kind of reflects what's going on musically in a cool
Is
way.
this a concept album?
Is this a concept album? Maybe. It's so vague that you can kind of make it a concept album about anything. Let's get to our adjectives, shall we?
Soon we'll be approaching the track by track.
We're almost
Oh, wait.
out of letters.
that we haven't used before.
But we have a few more that we haven't used. So this time, Chops got E, Chris got Y, and I got P. I was thankful that this time Chris got the letter that has like no adjectives. So I don't know, Chops, if you want to go first.
Okay, thank you. So my first letter word
There you
is elegant
go. Yes. Okay. I feel-
because it is a very flowy, like very evocative. I should have said evocative,
there you
but
go.
elegant works.
There's a lot of
It's a
E
very
in
like. That's not one of my three. It's it flows so well and it paints a picture and does it very, very elegantly, in my opinion. Number 2. This is a spicy one. Excessive. Because I do feel like this version of the song doesn't quite earn its length as much as a certain other version does.
the 96 version. I got
It did feel that way a bit to me re-listening.
you. Okay.
That's fair.
96.
Like it reaches a point where maybe you're like, okay.
No. I need to go back and hear that 96 version. It's been ages.
Oh yeah, I
But
also forgot that
my-
like Long Season was recorded in 1996. So me saying the 96
Yeah,
version,
the studio version is a 96 version.
the live
Yeah.
version. Okay, yeah.
True. Okay, so number 3. And I think we all three can agree on this one. Epic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got a lot of swag.
Try and
to it.
deny it.
Epic meme, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
long
just,
season's kind of swagging.
It is an epic. That's why. And that's why I don't know. Comparing it to like Great Gig in the Sky, it's like it's sort of like rock opera-y kind of. Like it's not a rock song, but it has that same.
Yeah.
It's monumental. Yeah. Damn, I like your words.
In its own little way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool, Chris.
All right.
What'd you get with that? Why?
Why was a bit tough, and one of them's a bit cheeky, as they say across the pond. My first one is relatively normal. Yearning. I feel like it's a good way to describe a little more of the emotional aspects of the album. It's kind of yearning. My second one, depending on how you look at it, I said youthful.
Yeah.
And even if it just feels like through the lens of like adolescence, or at least like being younger.
They're young,
Yeah.
but they are historical.
Yeah, right. Because I like it's also a bit nostalgic, but like I don't know if it's nostalgic for the days from when you were like.
It's that sort of
younger.
dreamlike thing where you're like a kid and you just look out the window and everything seems like magical.
Yeah, I'm like quite like that. And my third adjective is European, but spelled with a Y.
There really aren't a lot of Y words, are there?
I was gonna say like Yugoslavian, but so European because there's an accordion in it, and it kind of I don't know. It sounds like the
He's not wrong.
I agree. Yeah.
like in a weird sort of way. You could say that there's a bit more of a quote unquote like Western influence on it.
There
You
is.
say. There is, and I don't want to be superficial about it, but there's an accordion.
Yeah. The first time I heard this song, I was walking around this like lake in Norway, and I was like, "Oh, it doesn't sound like it's from Japan." Just felt like I don't know. It made more sense in that context, honestly.
Yeah.
But
What did your one friend say? It sounded like
Well, I always thought it sounded like gondola music.
there you go. It was something like that. Yeah.
know.
European, but spelled with a Y. There you go.
European, yeah. Cool. And then I got P. I didn't pick progressive or psychedelic because that's just like obvious. So I did panoramic. Sort of touched on this earlier, but it's like how season puts me in a very specific place. Like I view season as a single photo of like a tree, but in this analogy, long season is like a huge panoramic picture of like a super detailed, all-encompassing naturescape. I guess it's like you're entering a whole world instead of just like one feeling. And then I did pantheistic. Yeah, pantheism, it's this idea that like everything is divine or that like the universe itself is God. So I feel like this idea sort of translates here because the song really feels like spiritual and like reverent. Like I know the lyrics aren't about that, but it feels like a celebration of life and music and nature. And yeah, I mean, and that's where the cover art comes back in because I feel like of the 3 Setagaya trilogy albums, even though they all have the band members on the front, this is the one where they're like the most in the background. And the focus isn't really on them, it's kind of on like their surroundings. So the song is less about like it's less a Fishman song, it's more like they're just channeling like this idea of nature through their music. And then the third one was perfect.
Well, you're not wrong.
This
I
isn't my
suppose.
favorite Fishman song or album
Where's the lie?
in terms of like which one I listen to the most, but I would say that it is their best. Or maybe if we're not talking about this recording of the song, just like Long Season in general.
As a composition.
As a composition, it is perfect. It's like an experience. It's not even like a song anymore. And I don't want to sound hyperbolic because I know there's this idea that everyone's overrating Long Season and Fishmans in general. But it's pretty, I don't know, it's just, I think it helps that nothing else can compare to it. Like, and that's kind of this whole phase of Fishmans for me. Like early on, you can compare their sound to more things. But listening to Long Season, I don't really, I mean, aside from that like Great Gig in the Sky comparison, and I think I have one comparison we'll get to later, but like, what else sounds like this? Nothing.
And even then, I think the Great Gig in the Sky comparison
Yeah,
is
it's
more
just
just
like-
like singing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and that's why, I don't know, it hurts that we're always throwing around 10 out of 10s so casually all the time, because then it's hard to differ like between them. But Long Season is, I think, the first Fishmans album that is truly like,
Yeah. Oh.
yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the song. I kind of want to go section by section, but don't feel restrained if like you want to talk about something else. I guess we'll just go through sort of the moments because I've written it out. So part 1, we open with some toilet sounds.
Did you just call it part 1?
Part 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean part 1? As if there's multiple parts?
There are multiple parts. Well, there are on the official release.
I know.
You're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, don't feel constrained. But yeah, Toilet Sounds. I've seen multiple comments on Rate Your Music where people say like, man, I really want to like Long Season, but I always picture like a small Asian man just like squatting over a bucket, just like taking a dump, and I can't get into it.
I always imagine like, I don't know, like a pebble falling into like a river.
Right.
Or like some sort of like water splashing sound that is not within the confines
People
of the
are
rest.
so immature.
Like how, okay.
Yeah.
Because I hear it, but like how dumb do you have to be to hear the song and that's the first thing you think of? Not just... It's different than like making a joke about it, but these people seriously cannot enjoy the song.
We'll probably get more of this kind of stuff now with like all the PewDiePie fans coming in.
Oh my lord.
They'll be like, damn, why is PewDiePie listening to this like turd music? Anyway, like it kind of ruined the song for me though. Like when I first heard it, I didn't think of that, but it like every time I hear it now since I've read those comments, I'm just like, there it is.
Anyway, so the song begins.
The song begins. We sort of get like the elements being introduced slowly one by one.
Oh, the bass line.
The bass line comes in.
Oh, yeah.
This bass line, it's
Do-do-do.
This is what I'm talking about how Long Season is a bit more mysterious than Season, because I feel like Season just off the bat is just like bright.
Nice, yeah.
But do you guys agree that the beginning of Long Season feels a bit like shadowy kind of?
Yeah, like a summer evening.
Yeah.
And it's humid, like what Chop said. It's humid, and it's like the sun's about to set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's not evil. It's
No,
just
no,
like
not at all,
just
but-
it's sort of slightly like dusky.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get the really mysterious keyboard melody before the main melody comes in, and then the piano comes in.
When that piano comes in, that's when you know things are about to happen. When that drum fill hits, and then like the piano starts right after. Oh, it's such a moment.
Yeah.
Is it my favorite moment? No.
This build-up
But
is so cool.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. What's your guys' favorite musical element going on in this first part?
I mean, for me, I would have to say that melody played on that like really slidey synth keyboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, the melody.
You can't beat it.
Yeah, I don't know, because it's not a melody that shows up often throughout the album, but when it does happen, you're like, oh, okay. Because it's at the beginning and the end.
Yeah, so when
And
it comes back in, that's sort of like the genius of the song structure is they introduce a lot of stuff in the beginning, and then they play with it in the middle, and a lot of it vanishes, and then by the end, when it returns, it's sort of in a different context.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're hearing the same thing you already heard, but now the emotions have changed, and it makes you feel different.
And I also want to give a quick shout out to that. I originally thought it was like a keyboard part, and it still might be, but when they played it live, Darts played it on his guitar. It's that like really harsh, like
Yeah.
keyboard noise, which I know you said like you don't appreciate as much, but I think it's a nice flavor to have in there. It's funky.
Yeah,
for
it's the
sure.
one that goes like dun dun dun
Yeah.
dun dun. So that's my question for you guys. Like honestly, if I had to pick a problem with this recording of Long Season, it's really just the tone of that melody. It feels a little. It's almost like hip hoppy kind of, but it feels like it's kind of grating. Just maybe it's the way it's mixed or the way.
I get
don't
it.
know.
You're right. In like any way you can describe the tone color, I would agree with, but I would never have a problem with it. Personally, that's just me.
In terms of like Long Season being excessive, like when do you think that starts, Chops? Like, is it? Or do you think this early section is too drawn out, or later on?
Later on, definitely. The intro is really, like you said, it's like a perfect build-up. It's so concise. It's really well paced. Like no problem with that at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like it really flies by because like when I was listening to it this time, I actually checked like where I was in the song, and Shinji doesn't even come in until near like the 5-minute mark. But it doesn't feel like it's been a whole song. You just feel like you're building up. Here's another question, I
Yeah.
guess. How do you guys feel about the lack of Shinji on this album? I think it's kind of interesting that like this is the band's most well-known release, but it also features the least amount of Shinji vocals, because I know that Shinji vocals can either be they're kind of polarizing, like they're either a thing that you love about the band or they're kind of what keeps you from getting into them.
Maybe. Taken on the surface, it's not like there's a distinct lack of Shinji in comparison to other albums, but on this album, I don't think like there's not enough of him. I think he does like what he needs to do, and he sounds great on it. He fits perfectly on the track, and I just don't think, because a lot of tracks he might be like the reason it's so good, but here it feels like the whole band,
They're all
like the
pulling their
production
weight,
work,
yeah.
and I don't think Shinji is like left out of this album as much as he just has a very specific role to play, and he plays it perfectly. And
Yeah, I guess what I'm wondering is just like how many people out there really like I mean, and I've seen it, people on radio music, people really like Long Season and they give it like a 5, but then they don't really listen to any other stuff. And I just wonder if that's because of Shinji, right? Like, is this just a bit more accessible for a lot of people?
Maybe either that, or because if they're not listening to anything else, what that means to me is, I hope I don't sound too condescending when I say this. They're a bit of like a tourist when it comes, like, because like you'll see.
You sounded condescending.
Yeah, no, I did. No, but because I do this too, where like I know there's a very notable release by an artist, and I'll listen to that, but then I won't like listen to the artist's other work at all. I just listen to that, and, like, that was really cool.
Fair.
So I think a lot of people, they see this near the top 100. It's in the top 100 now, right?
I don't know.
Either way, they see it there and they listen to it, like, that's great, but they're not interested in listening to other Fishman stuff. So maybe tourist was a bit more of a negative term.
You're like, ugh, you're not a real fan.
No, I don't mean that. It's just like, I get it. Like, when you're just looking at the charts, you'll listen to an album, but you're not going to like delve deep into like the artist that made it. I think a lot of people might do that.
That's true. Okay, cool.
That's just me.
But yeah, I really agree with your comment that everyone in the band is pulling their own weight. I feel like there's moments in, like, especially for some of the newer members, like in the previous songs that Fishmans made, I think it's mainly Shinji and Yuzuru who are sort of in prominence with all those catchy bass lines and the songs themselves. But I mean, here we get the Motegi drum solo that we'll talk about later. But we also have like violin parts from Hanzi and the guitar solo by Darts. So it seems like there's a moment for everyone to sort of like take the spotlight, which is really cool. So speaking of like violin and also the accordion, you had said it sounded European. I think it sounds European. Chops, you actually live in Europe. I mean, maybe not Europe anymore since you guys like left, but I don't know. do you agree? I guess what I'm wondering is like, why is it just because of the instrumentation or the notes? Are they playing like a more Western?
They're playing.
Melodic idea?
They're playing like a minor scale, and they're playing with a violin and like a harmonica, an accordion. It's super like surface level. Like, oh well, these are instruments used in like Western music, and like this is like a scale really associated with Western music, like being the natural minor scale. So I think it's just that, because I don't think they're playing anything super. What is Western?
I know they're not playing like
they're not playing a pentatonic scale,
Bavarian folk music or anything.
Yeah. But it is because I don't think it's like super outwardly European as much as it's just more so than what we've heard before.
Shinji yodeling. Now I kind of want this.
Well, I mean, you're
Damn. Anyway, well, I asked Chops, but you answered, but it's a good answer, so.
Chops, can you give your answer? Because
give your answer as a European person.
I was just going to say, I really like that take of it being like partially kind of European influence. I see it's like a blend almost, but in a way, I also kind of think of the accordion as something Japan has kind of like integrated into its own music a fair bit, I want to say.
Oh, yeah?
Maybe that's
like
just in like... Maybe that's just in like soundtrack work.
Music. Oh, yeah, in soundtracks maybe, yeah.
Maybe I just feel like I've heard it a lot, like maybe in, I don't know, Spirits of the Way soundtrack or something, or some Nobuo Uematsu. But
I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah, no, but I do like that take of it being like kind of Europe meets Japan in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're setting out to like combine the Western world and like the Japanese world, but like it.
Well, I mean, they already kind of did that because we talked on the Orange episode about how they recorded a lot of Orange in London, and I mean that it felt a bit. It was still like Shibuya K, but it felt a little bit more influenced by like Western sort of ideas of indie rock and that kind of. But this is different because this is just more classical instrumentation.
We love on the Fishcast where we delve deep into ethnomusicology.
Ah, yes, ethnocentrism, as Shinji would advocate. So essentially, this initial section of the song is the introduction. We're presented with all the refrains and musical ideas that will eventually be broken down. So part one, the children's choir is in part one, right? That's how it ends.
Yeah, that's near the end.
So this children's choir comes in. So I'm wondering, like, is it actually kids, or are they just like So
They
because I
sound-
looked at who was credited, there are a ton of different credited vocalists, but I can't tell from your name if you were like a baby. So
Yeah, and also, we can also like talk about this. This might be a nice segue into that, but it makes it hard to hear with the recording quality that's on Spotify. It's not necessarily like super lo-fi, but it sounds kind of like there's just some elements that are hard to hear. A lot of things that are buried. A lot of things that sound very.
is that only on Spotify or just this version of the song in general?
Okay, look, I don't want to have to keep flexing that I have the fucking vinyl, but
When I play it on my turntable,
I'm just saying when I play them-
so much more.
I don't want to be this person, but it's true. I don't know if it might just be like the speakers or if it's actually just the version on Spotify. I don't know. And all I'm gonna say is that the children's choir, I can't say if they're all children because I can barely hear it.
Well, and that's true for me. I feel like and maybe a bit more later on in the song, but the recording quality of this one is the main reason why I don't listen to this one as much as the 98 one. Because the 98 one is just recorded in like a clear, sort of more lush way.
very-
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Yeah. And then so sometimes when I listen to this one, it's fine, but if I turn it up too loud, it kind of grates. But
I don't know.
yeah.
I can't say.
I had a question for you guys about children's choirs. I know Chris and I have talked about this before. Like, does every song improve when you add a children's choir?
It either
No.
improves or gets worse.
No. Oh, you have a strong
Yeah.
opinion.
No, it does not.
Tell us a bad song that has a children's choir.
Another
Panic
brick
by
in
the
wall.
Smiths.
Oh,
The
Damn.
worst Smiths song.
I love
the
that
worst.
song.
Oh, sorry.
Well, and I know that I don't
I like
know how
DJs
Chris
too
feels
much,
about the
I'm sorry.
song, but I know that Chris hates The Wall. Like,
another brick in the wall.
Another
kind of
Pink Floyd
grate
thing.
me, but not necessarily because of the children's choir. It's another reason for me to like this.
I think there's this idea that like as soon as you introduce a children's choir, your song becomes more important. Like if you have kids singing, with another brick in the wall, it's like if we sing about it, it'll just be a song. But if we have kids singing about it, it'll be
it's like,
real.
wow, it ties
Or
into
I
the
don't know,
concept.
like Dirty Harry.
I was just gonna
by
say.
Gorillas. It's like, hey, I'm gonna get
That's a great one,
I'm gonna
to
get
be
this
honest.
children's choir singing about guns and the Iraq War, and then it'll be. But like that's what I mean. I feel like it can maybe swing either direction.
It can, and I think maybe generally speaking, a children's choir would be better in a context where, first off, they're not super prominent, and second,
They're not
off,
singing words.
that too. I just think what am I trying to say?
Where it doesn't feel like they're the only reason why they're included is to like tug at your heartstrings. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if it's like it's I don't
yeah,
know.
exactly.
Well, it's like I feel like in Long Season, like Chris, you said it was a youthful song, and I think it's Shinji
Yeah.
driving around, getting in touch with his own youth. So I don't know if the children in the song are supposed to be like, and we have a children's choir. It's more just like Shinji's inner child.
And also just like purely
Oh.
like the sound of like a lot of children singing something can either be good
Yeah,
or bad,
yeah.
and it depends on like how you utilize that. And I think in this,
It's like you're swinging for the fences every time you get a children's choir. It's a big risk.
make sure
Yeah.
they don't sound too childlike, or else you might have a problem.
Oh, I know the other one recently was on that Dua Lipa album. On
There
the
was a
last song, I
children's-
think, wasn't there, or was it just a choir? On
Might have just
Boys
been
Will
a
Be
choir.
Boys. I know there was like a big choir.
Anyway, so part 2.
Part 2. So this one opens by dropping out the vocals. We build some of the elements back up. We have a really cool mix of like twinkling bells.
Oh yeah, there's
And the
some nice-
drum. This is where the drumming starts to get kind of funky. Like it
Yeah,
starts
there's like this cool
fluttering a
little
little
like
bit.
drum loop that kind of plays over this part and the coming like drum solo, if you want to call it that. I don't know. It's like this nice little like snare shuffle. I think it sounds very nice.
This is also where Shinji begins singing his classic refrain of "Get round in the season."
Can we talk about what this means?
I was gonna ask Jake about the lyrics in general because I didn't actually look at your translation for the lyrics. I know from what I've seen before, it's vaguely about like driving around Tokyo.
Kind of romantic.
Like it's not actually
Yeah.
we say it's about a forest, but I don't think he's actually in a forest in the song. So what do you have by means of a translation?
It's funny. I'm really glad you mentioned the get round in the season part because when I was trying to translate this one, I noticed that there are actually quite a lot of meanings in Japanese for the phrase "get round," and if I may, I'm going to list them now.
Yes.
Go for
So,
it.
get round means to make round, like in a ball, like make something a sphere.
Yeah.
To round off, to roll up, to curl up, to seduce, to cajole or cajole, or not sure how to say it, to explain away. So apparently Shinji's doing all of these things and maybe more in the season.
He's becoming a sphere while he's also like seducing you, and he's coming over.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean when
As
I
you
hear
do,
get
yeah.
round, I always assumed he was either talking about like coming round, like coming over to visit, or
Getting
maybe just
around.
like inflation.
Yeah.
I don't think that's it. I don't know.
He's just becoming a sphere himself. I love it though. It's very vague and just nice. But in terms of the other lyrics, what's going on here?
What's going on here? Well, he's, I think, feeling the effects of some bad medicine is one theme in here.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, cold medicine.
So in that way, I do kind of see how this album is like a little bit darker than the other stuff, because it sounds like he's had like a chemical dependency issue in the lyrics.
So are we saying
yeah.
that the middle of the song is like a bad trip, or just like you're coming out of being sick? Maybe. If we're
To be
taking it
fair-
very literally.
Yeah, because I do like the way, as like crazy as part 3 is, the way that works with like part 4. Feels like you're coming out of like a certain darkness, sort of like going into the night and then going back out,
we'll
like
get to
to the
it.
next one. I'm sorry, but you mentioned that.
I
so-
mentioned it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get there. Anyway,
To be fair, I mean, the lyric is like, or what I saw it as was, seems I've been messed up by my cold medicine. So I almost think it's more mundane than like some psychedelics or something. It might just be, I wonder if it's like some antidepressants that kind of had a bad effect on him within the song.
could be.
Which, I don't know, I still think that would explain how the music sounds in a way.
Yeah.
Kind of has that kind of,
Like a groggy kind of.
You're just slurping up that NyQuil.
yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Man, the next time I have some purple drink, I'm gonna.
Wow, was Shinji
Listen to
drinking
Long
Lane
Season.
when he was writing Long Season?
But yeah, no, I like a
Lane
lot of.
Season.
I mean, I know it's just that, and then there's the get round, and then there's just some lyrics about driving, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
It's not really.
and then-
Oh, what's up?
Oh no, I wasn't gonna say anything.
I get that's sort of the vibe though, you know, like maybe you're coming out of being sick, you just feel kind of like, ugh, but you're like driving around the city. Everything is sort of, like time is sort of warped in a weird way. You just kind of want to sleep, but you're in like a mid-state between being awake and being asleep. Ugh. That's why I don't think it's like necessarily happy or sad. It's just kind of, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah, existence music.
Existence music. So then Shinji starts singing in his higher register. He's accompanied by a really cool guitar. And this is where we get the vocals, the female vocals by Yue, who were it might be Mary Mary, it might be Yue. But I really like this part because it seems like the closest thing we get to like a feature on a Fishmans track, like a vocal feature, aside from maybe like I Dub Fish or something. And it's interesting to hear a different sort of vocalist over the Fishmans instrumentation, because we're so used to hearing Shinji, and she's doing very different melodic things. It's very much more like showy, and she's really like just up in her register, going crazy.
Yeah, because there've been, at least I remember there being like, there's been like background vocals in Fishman songs before, but never like another like lead vocalist doing like what she's doing here.
I was gonna ask you, I totally forgot about it. Isn't there a version of is it Night Cruising where there's like a rapper?
I don't know if it's night. Oh,
You posted
You posted-
that.
I
you sent
did.
it
Yeah,
to
it was
me.
night cruising. It
What
was.
is it? We should have talked about this on Kuchu, but we can talk about it right now.
I don't remember.
It was
found
the
video.
actual band. It wasn't like a cover, right?
Yeah, it was actual band. It was like, of course, after Shinji had died. It was. I don't know. Yeah, and they brought in like a Japanese rapper to throw a verse onto night.
I like how it's on Night Cruising too. Like that's not the first song I would pick if I'm going for like a Fishman song to put a rapper on. But yeah, no,
What is the first one you'd pick?
Oh, like
Long
something on Kuchu, probably.
Nice choice.
Nice choice, or like even like Sunny Blue or Atarashi Hito. That'd be cool.
Ooh,
like
Imagine like an Earl Sweatshirt verse on like Atarashi Hito.
Yo,
wow.
Yo, imagine Blade on Atarashi.
Yeah. Anyway, part 3. So part 3, it opens with drums and the pooping noises come back.
You don't have to keep calling him that. You're doing it to yourself.
This is, I believe this is Motogi's standout moment in all of Fishman's
And
discography.
I want to say Zach's too. He's doing a lot of like
Zach's.
funky production stuff here. With, like all of the noises and like the sampling and effects that he's throwing on everything. It's so cool.
We also have Masaki Morimoto, who is credited for the whistling in this section. So I don't know who's whistling on Season, but on Long Season we have a credit for whistling.
That's all they do. It's just whistle.
This is where the mixing becomes really like, because there's lots of sounds, there's like lots of drumming that eventually culminates in this crazy solo, but it's all mixed in a way that feels very like claustrophobic. Like I feel like if before we were in like a river, now we've swum into like this cave, and
are you saying
all the
that as like
sounds
it's
are
like a detriment? Because I
think it's incredible. Yeah,
because I think this is where the mixing really shines. Is when things get like crazier, it kind of serves the funkiness.
Yeah, like it's experimental mixing, but it's serving the weird feeling of the song. If I had to compare it to anything, this is my second comparison for Long Season. Is it sounds like the mixing on Person Pitch by Panda Bear.
Oh, right.
You know how like that album, it's very, it's also very aquatic and like it's super washed out. Like it's not quite the same as what's going on here, but there's just like weird little water sounds happening and it's very compressed. So that's kind of what's going on here. It makes me feel strange.
Yeah, it does, and you know, it's I don't know, a nice addition to the track. This part 3.
Have we entered the excessive section yet?
Honestly, it entered the excessive section when the Great Gig in the Sky
Okay, I
lady
feel
came
that.
in.
I get that.
I feel that. Okay.
I mean, it's I didn't really notice that she was like pretty much the closest thing to a feature in Fishman's discography till you guys mentioned, and that's really cool that that's there. But it kind of felt a bit like jumping the shark almost after listening to a '98 version so much.
Yeah, I wish that, like, look, I love Yue doing her vocals, but, like, and not to jump ahead at all, but I kind of would prefer the guitar solo over
Yeah, it
this.
almost feels like if they were going to put those vocals, they should have put them closer to the end. Like, I get it, it might feel kind of unearned. Like, we're not even halfway through the song, and it's already just like, wow.
It's a perfect song.
But,
no
yeah,
problems
it
with it
might
at
be an
all.
issue in structuring.
Maybe, but
So this drum solo. So here's a fun story. So I've been trying to get my dad into Fishmans, right? Because I don't know, I figured he might like Fishmans. He doesn't really like vocalists though. So the thing for him was always Shinji. Like I would play songs and he'd be like, "This is a cool instrumental," but then Shinji would start singing and he's
well,
like,
it sounded like you a couple years ago.
yeah. So, you know, I assumed like maybe he'll like Long Season because it has the least amount of Shinji. So we were driving one day down this road. It was the road from Flagstaff to Sedona. Really nice forest.
That's a perfect place.
It's
to
a perfect place.
listen.
Yeah, it kind of honestly looks like the cover of the album. Really lush, like a nice little river. So I'm playing Long Season. He likes the beginning. He's like, this is the best Fishman song. And then we hit part 3, and he's like, oh. And it's funny because it wasn't the vocals that undid him. It was this, and he's like, Ray, what? He's like, what the fuck is this? He said it sounded like a bad acid trip, but I feel like it sounds.
He knows from experience.
It's a good acid trip.
Well, no, it's a bad acid trip, but it's good because it's through the lens of fiction.
It is interesting to me though that like I don't know, this is the biggest quote unquote Fishman song, but it has like the weirdest stuff going on in it.
And I think that's why.
That's why, yeah.
Well, just because a lot of like people on the internet who are super into music,
Yeah.
like this sort of like progressive using funky sounds in the music.
It just makes me wonder like if you played Fishmans for everyone in the whole world and you asked them like what their favorite Fishmans thing was, I feel like Long Season would no longer be considered.
It'd probably be up there.
Maybe.
But
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, but you know, no way to tell.
But I feel like this is the most divisive part of the song. Just
It
either
is.
due to the mixing or due to the sounds. Oh, so you had messaged us, Chops, about the laser noises. I wrote down the exact same thing in my notes. I was like, yeah, we entered this part where there's like twinkling and like laser noises and the drums going on, and I feel like I'm in an underwater space battle with like octopuses and they're like blasting each other.
And I like.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, what's that?
I was just gonna say I admire how coming back to this song in general, like it's just I didn't realize how many just random stuff there is in it, and I gotta admire that. They just like put all sorts of shit in it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's very, very admirable. I wanted to say again, kind of jumping ahead, but kind of related to this too, how both the 96 live version and the 98 live version do like sort of like two sides of the same coin, where like 96 was more focused on like the percussion aspect of this by turning it like literally into just a drum solo, and 98 turning it like taking the really like dreamy hazy aspects of this and like turning it up to 11. But here like they're both kind of embraced.
Yeah, this is
and
kind of
it's
like a middle ground.
Yeah.
That's why this might be like the definitive version of the song in terms of like being the original composition.
Yeah.
Because the other ones, it's more like they're playing off of what they did here. But this is like the template. Yeah, it's a crazy part. I love it. It used to be my least favorite part because of the mixing. But now
I can't say it's my
appreciate
favorite
it.
part. It's like, I don't know. It's my third favorite.
What? Nice. So part 4, so my dad asked me to stop the song when we're driving, and I didn't stop it. I was like, you have to keep listening. So then this part came on. He compared this part to like a Beatles song or like some feel good like pop rock track from like the 1960s.
Maybe?
Which I sort of get when like the ba 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 vocals come in.
I could see it.
And I feel like my cave analogy holds up because it's sort of, I think you said this earlier, Chris, it's like in part 3 you enter this crazy psychedelic underwater cave. You feel like it's super claustrophobic. And then in part 4 you sort of escape and you have, the stress is gone. It's like this feeling of inner peace that washes over you and you're swimming back up to the surface.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, like, just as a whole, it's kind of what long season feels like. You start somewhere, you end up somewhere funky, and then you leave.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about this later with my hero's journey analogy. But
okay, yeah, we'll get there later. I kind of wanted to say it's sort of like, if I have to belabor this analogy anymore, like an evening going into night going into morning.
Or like the seasons.
Or the sea. Oh, I didn't think about that.
But I guess, well, but there aren't 4. There are 5 parts. There aren't 4 parts. So,
part 4.
if the song is the seasons, then what season is part 3 with the crazy drum solo? Is it winter or summer or like? Oh,
one of the two extremes. I would probably say summer.
yeah.
I feel. I don't know. It's kind of twinkly. Reminds me of Christmas. I'm gonna say it's winter.
Damn.
It's not important. Part 4.
The 2 Christmas Fishmans albums are officially Corduroy's Mood, and then part 3 of Long Season. But no, I really like part 4. I feel like it's the most sort of maybe slight part of the song.
You want to hear a hot take?
Yeah.
This is my favorite part of the song.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I really love like the reverse like guitar sounds and like the weird like low bit like sound effects that are everywhere, and of course those like the vocals. I don't know. It's super dreamy. It's like kind of not what I wanted, but kind of what I expected the whole song to sound like in this one part. Like before listening to it. Of course, I wasn't disappointed at all. It's just that that's what I had.
It's definitely the biggest. I mean, aside from part 3, this is like the biggest departure because we don't really get. I mean, we get the Yume no Naka melody back from Shinji, but so musically, it's not really similar to what was going on in the beginning at all. Chops, how do you feel about this section?
It's nice.
It's
good.
Chops,
Cool.
you're killing me here,
It's
buddy.
nice. I don't know. Yeah, I do really like this part. I don't have much thoughts on it.
Okay.
That's what I mean. Like, it's
unfortunately.
so simple and so stripped back that it's kind of just hard to talk.
Yeah.
It feels like a song that's always existed. Like the other parts feel like someone sat down and wrote them, but this part feels like it just like happened, kind of. And
Have you seen the video on YouTube where they kind of sing it a cappella?
No.
I love that video
Is it
so much.
Fishmans or someone else?
No, it's Fishmans. They're sitting
It's
by
interesting.
like
It's Fishmans.
yeah, they're sitting by like a waterfall or like a river, and they're just singing that part.
God, I need to watch it.
You see their eyes like focus on their like middle distance. They kind of just like get a 1,000-mile stare
Yeah,
as they sing it.
It's so nice because like it's like one of them starts singing it, then they all start singing it.
I have to see
I'll
this.
show you
Something
that.
about it.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love this. I love the melody. Just the ba-ba-ba-ba melody. The cool thing about Long Season is there's like 5 different melodies that happen throughout the song.
But they all feel very monumental.
And they all feel equally monumental. They're all equally memorable and catchy. They're all like, they all go together. It doesn't feel like they're clashing.
Yeah, because even though you said this is like the biggest departure on the album, I still feel like that ba 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 part is like like one of the most iconic parts of this.
It's like every time another melody comes in, you're like, this is it. This is the one. But you forget that there's even more. Okay, so then part 5. I barely took any notes for this one because it's like just. I said this is peak music. Hansi's
Okay.
violin.
Ooh.
Ooh.
The guitar solo.
The guitars. Yeah, this guitar
he
solo.
kind of like shreds for a little bit.
I can see why they added darts to their permanent touring lineup after he was on this album because they're like, oh.
the guitar tone is like so.
I've seen people
big.
call it the greatest guitar solo ever. It's
But it's really good. I really love it. It's the placement on the song it's nice. It's good.
so it's really hard to talk about because part 5 they're just bringing back in everything from part 1, kind of just the whole song and tying it up. I guess my question would be like, and I think I already know your guys' answer, but I don't know. This for me, the end of this version of Long Season, the studio version, feels a bit less like climactic than the 98 one, just because that one goes on a little bit longer, and there's some other moments where it feels like really explosive. In this one, like I don't know, all the elements come back and it feels really good, but then the song kind of just like ends.
I think the catharsis here is more drawn out. It's not reduced to like certain moments that happen that you've been building up towards. It's like the whole part.
Yeah, like, I think it starts
everything.
in part 4 when you're kind of like emerging from the drum solo, and then it just continues for the rest of it.
And then like I don't know, it's just sort of everything like coming together. Like that's where a lot of the catharsis comes for me. It's just everything just sort of, I don't know. It's just it's all one now.
By this part, Chops, are you like just or does it sort of win you back by the end of the song?
Like, to be honest, if I had to do a blasphemous thing and remove any part of Long Season, it might be this one.
The final part, yeah.
I don't know.
Wow.
Or at least like I'd maybe shave a bit off it.
I sort of get it, because I feel like it's the
Okay.
only part that isn't introducing anything new. You know what I mean?
It's
Like
just-
after
yeah, it's
part
like
4,
yeah.
like you could. There's a version of the song that ends on part 4 maybe, where it just ends with like an acapella, and by then you'd sort of. But I don't know. I feel like that's the question of, should you bring back these elements? Because I guess that is where it could feel really excessive. But it's
And
like
also,
a
it is
reprise.
like it's the longest part of the song.
Yeah.
So I get people, or I
Mm-hmm.
don't know other people who think this, but I get someone who would be like, this, it's just a little bit too long.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really hit like a certain moment that really sums everything up. It does just sort of kind of end.
For me, I guess I would say it doesn't feel
Yeah.
like too repetitive to me because like the emotional tone has changed. Like
Yeah.
with that sliding synth melody that we talked about at the beginning, like it comes back in the 5th part, but when it comes back in, it feels totally different and it feels way less mysterious and more like triumphant.
Yeah.
So I'm not like, oh, there it is again. I'm just like, ooh, that's new.
It feels like the entire song has
yeah.
just been like recontextualized. Like
Yeah.
just because this like the last few minutes.
And that's what's so cool. It's like I've heard so few songs that do that, where they're playing with the same ideas, but then stuff has happened in the middle, and you feel like you're like a different person by the end. It's really hard to describe
Yeah.
like the psychological effect of it without sounding like really pretentious. Whoa, it's like this song changed me, man. But I don't know. All I wrote down for this section was like, this song makes me so happy. And especially in
does.
2020, I don't know. It's just like so. It's so simple, but it's just so powerful, and it's so hopeful by the end. I don't know. There's just been a lot of bad stuff going on in the world
Yeah.
personally, so it's just, I don't know. Listening to this gives me peace. Aw.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, good job, Ray.
Yeah, Chris, do you cry to Long Season
I used to a lot more.
when you actually felt things?
No, just when I listened to Fishmans.
Oh.
Sorry, I haven't.
So I don't know if you guys go through this, but I know for me, like, I mean, every month I listen to a Fishmans album in super great detail for this podcast, but I also, like, I feel like I haven't been listening to Fishmans as much recently. Or, like, I go through periods. I mean, I do this with every artist where, like, you'll listen to, like, they're the only artist you listen to for a couple days or, like, a week. And then you kind of are like, okay. And you move on, you listen to other stuff. But,
I don't think like for me, it's not because I'm not liking Fishmans any.
it's not about liking them. It's just about, like, I don't know. But
Is this
for
what
me,
hyperfixations?
hyperfixation, yeah, but like I really haven't listened to Fishmans in a while, so I think there was a time earlier this year where I was listening to Long Season like every day. But it was almost more powerful having not listened to it for a while, because I had forgotten about all the moments.
Yeah, because like once you, and I kind of know this from experience, like listening to 98 like Long Season over and over again for like months straight, every time I would get something like amazing out of it, but then I would. Like, I wouldn't like it any less, but I would just be used to the things that are happening. And like, even though I would, you know, like cry at the end of it, it feels different when you like go back to it after a certain amount of time. Because even though you know what's going to happen, it doesn't feel like it's a part of like the routine anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like the coolest part about Long Season is that exploration feeling, like that feeling of discovery. And like on your first listen, how the parts shift into each other and how the song progresses, you're kind of like, oh, like it's doing
Whoa.
that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get what you're saying. Like it almost, once it becomes routine, once you're so used to it, maybe it loses some of its magic. But that's why I think it's cool that there's different versions, you know? Because if you ever get tired of one version, you'll listen to the other versions.
Or just listen to Baby Blue.
Yeah. Anything else about the end of the song? I mean, this is the part that I find the hardest to talk about.
I like how it ends with that one. I don't know who it is. It might be Darts, it might be someone else. But
like
the person
muttering kind of, yeah.
that like singing that happens at the end. Like I know Shinji does it on 98, but like the last like vocal melody that happens.
Yeah.
Very
What were you gonna
nice.
say, Chops?
I was just gonna say that by bringing it full circle, by bringing everything back into part 5, they technically make it round in the season.
my
So it's
God.
the best way to
So the song itself is like a meta commentary on the song.
Getting round.
Maybe.
They
I'm always
did-
gonna think about
They
that
really
now.
do be getting round in this season.
They do.
Ew.
They do.
Okay, so I guess now we can talk about long season broadly and like what it means to each of us. You can talk about emotional. You can talk about like if you think there's a story trying to be conveyed. I have something, so I could go first if you
I
want.
don't.
But if
I
you-
don't really have anything concrete. This one's always really tough for me because it gives me like a very specific emotion that I can't really like properly describe. But it doesn't make me think of anything specific other
Yeah.
than like I don't know, like cover, like nature. It reminds me of like tell you this a lot, like just skipping class like just to drive around and listen to long season. Because I don't. It's like why I go to school and I listen to long season like that. Like I guess for a while it's like a source of like joy and happiness, but I mean now it's just like a perfect song.
Maybe it is that idea about like driving around, because I mean we know the lyrics are about that, but it's also that idea of you start off in one place and you end up in the same place, but you've like seen different things along the way.
Yeah, and
It's
I
a
think,
great
Yeah.
driving song.
yeah,
I like that.
I think that's what I would say that it makes you think. It's like I don't know, it's a sort of like exploration. Like even though I'm so familiar with it, I feel like it gets on every time.
Or like how you can listen to it in different places.
Yeah.
And that's what's good about it being so kind of vague, is that other Fishman songs I feel like are very concrete in like the setting that I think they take place in. Like I can listen to Walkin' anywhere and it will make me feel the same way. But I feel like if you change the setting that you're listening to long season, it suddenly becomes like means different things.
Yeah, like listening to it while like scared to death in this like tent outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico, in the mountains while Ray
That
is
happened.
sound asleep. It's a much different
Oh, wow.
experience than me listening to it with my cousin after picking him up
Yeah.
from like the bus stop and us hanging out.
What were you scared of? If you don't mind me
Bugs.
asking.
Bugs and barking dogs everywhere.
It was like an Airbnb.
Oh.
We were just,
Ooh.
it was literally in the mountains outside of Albuquerque, and we were just in like a tent. It was like glamping. It was like a nice tent.
It was a
But,
tent like right next to
glamping.
the
There were bugs inside the tent, and I was just like, screw it, I'm gonna go to sleep. But I guess Chris stayed up and listened to Fishmans and like just was shaking.
Yeah, at a certain point, I got
Aw,
so
Chris.
it was.
You fell asleep.
I eventually did fall asleep, but yeah, it was like next to a house, and I kept hearing like
Oh, there were like
homies,
wild dogs too.
maybe not wild, but there were
I don't
dogs
know.
barking for a while, and like the dude who I assume it was the dude who like lived in the house. I heard him like walking around a bunch, not like near our
Oh.
tent, but I was like, what is he doing? What are people doing walking around at like 1 in the morning? I don't know.
The worst place
Yeah, I'd
to
be
listen to
scared.
long season.
But it was a different experience listening to long season.
Jake, do you have any
Yeah.
interpretations, emotional connotations?
Well, I've often thought, and I've sometimes said, that long season to me, which I've always loved, obviously, because it's long season, but it feels like it's music that always get understood how excruciating summer is when there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
back before I had something to do in summer, I remember it was the long season. It was really just excruciatingly drawn out and awful, and just like
Unlike
I don't know,
song,
like
but also kind of like the song.
yeah, oh definitely. But I just because I don't know, partially it reminds me of like the landscape around my home, and it also kind of reminds me of times in my home where I'd be like waiting for the school term to start up again, and it'd just be like, oh, I've not got much to do this summer that I want to be doing. And long season kind of had that completely figured out, and I was like, oh,
And I think I remember
this
you.
this music gets it.
Yeah, I think I remember you on Rate Your Music like posting pictures of like your home. Like I remember it was in
Yeah.
reference to long season. You're like, this is kind of like what it makes me think of. I vaguely remember
Yeah.
that.
Sorry, I just want to ask. So, is there anywhere in Arizona that looks much like that?
Oh, I guess what Ray described earlier. There's like a.
Yeah, I mean
it's-
the road I was on with my dad was sort of, it's a bit higher
Yeah.
elevation, so that it's a bit forested. I mean it's still kind of dry, like it's not going to be that humidity. But yeah, no, just very lush. I think it's that idea of like walking into like a forested area, and like if you walk deep enough and you turn around, you're not going to be able to see where you started, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
No, but I really relate to what you said about like that long season, and I think especially this year. I don't know if you guys have been going through this, but for me, this summer has felt like the longest summer of my life. Especially because because I was up at school in the spring, but like with COVID around like March, it ended, so I came down to be with my family, and then the whole summer I've kind of just been going back and forth, just like waiting for school to start, and it starts in like a few days, finally. But yeah, it's that sense of just like lounging around. There's nothing to do, but you know that like something's on the horizon, and it's just it's not so it's not depressing.
That's exactly.
You're sort of just like, okay, like we're here.
It's funny that you say it's felt like the longest summer so far, because I felt like everything has just happened way too quickly.
That's what's strange too. I mean, because like all these events that have been going on, it feels like there's a lot happening.
I can't believe it's
personally,
already
it feels
August,
like there's nothing happening. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's very. Yeah. No, I really do.
Yeah.
Long season.
Because you can't really. Yeah. Because you can't really see people that often, I've found. So that's part of it, I guess. But
Depends on
yeah,
who you
long
are.
season 2020.
Fishmans in
True.
2020 come out with another long season. Oh, so I saw microphones in 2020 just came out.
Oh
saw
yeah,
a
finally we have
comment.
the Western.
Yeah, there was literally a comment on Rate Music where they're like, "Whoa, this is like if long season was folk."
Which just isn't true.
I'm like, I guess they're both long songs. Very
Brendan
differently
made a
structured.
good point. Brendan tried to like, he said it was like progressive and like figured out like, I'm like, I was just like, I guess, but there's a lot of long songs that are that I wouldn't compare to long season.
Are you guys ready for my interpretation of long season?
I bet it's gonna be pretty long.
I don't know. It's sort of so. I learned about this in high school. Basically, there was this writer.
Oh my God! Wait,
You know what I'm
I
talking about.
remember what it is.
There's this writer Joseph Campbell in the 1940s, and he was sort of like a literary historian, I guess you could say. And he wrote this book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, where he discussed he looked at like a bunch of different myths and like mythologies and stories that have been told throughout different cultures, and he was like, wait a minute, all these stories are the same. And he found he sort of whittled down the arc of a story, or at least a traditional sort of like hero adventure narrative, into a series of steps that they all shared that he called the hero's journey. So the steps include like a call to adventure, you get the assistance of supernatural forces, you cross into another world. This is followed by a series of challenges and tasks which eventually culminate into a descent into the abyss, or like the character's death. But then they end up being reborn, and they go back to where they started with like new knowledge, or they've gone through a transformation. So I mean, a good example of this would be like Harry Potter. I mean, like shout out J.K. Rowling for being like a transphobic asshole.
Ugh.
But
Ugh.
I mean, he is living in the normal world. He gets called, like summoned to Hogwarts. He goes through all these challenges, and he has like a new life. And then he ends up dying, like literally. But
I've never read.
He dies. Spoilers for her. I mean, it's been out for a while. He dies. He comes back, and then he's learned new things. But I feel like this isn't this long season? I mean, like it starts off, and the first section is the introduction of the normal world. The second section, when things start changing and shifting, is like you're going into the supernatural world. The third section is sort of like the challenges, and it's the most like draining section. Maybe even culminating in that like laser create like that's like the death, or like an ego death.
Yeah,
And
because like
then
the end of part 3 is like
you're done, yeah. And then part 4 is when you're returning to the world, and you're transforming.
I like with those like little beeping stuff.
Yeah.
You're sort of,
And then part 5, you go back where you started, but now you've learned, you've picked up new knowledge, and you've transformed, and it feels like a return. And like, of course, this is such a sort of a broad idea
it's so
about
loose.
stories.
Like so many things would
You
fit
could
this.
probably apply it to anything, but I don't know. Like, it wasn't like I listened to Long Season and I was like, oh, I bet I can make this fit the hero's journey. Like, I listened to it and I'm like, oh, like, this is the hero's journey. So but it's also like the process of like self-actualization, or like just life, I guess. Yeah.
Wow.
Am I talking out of my ass?
No, it all makes sense because, like you said, it is just such like a broad thing. That
Yeah.
a lot of things could fit it, but I do think it works really well.
And that's
in the
just how our
context of
stories
Long
are
Season.
constructed. But I think it's cool that something like this sort of abstract can be based on that. I really, it makes me want like a Long Season short film, just sort of maybe like an animated, sort of like a psychedelic imagining of the themes in whatever way someone would think of.
Yeah, but I mean, if we're supposed to go off of the other Fishmans music videos. Let's be glad they didn't do it.
I'm excited for our episode where we're going to talk about all the Fishmans music videos. They're very interesting.
Ooh, is that happening?
Once we're done with all the albums this year, we're going to talk about B-sides and then like the music videos.
Shout out Slow Days,
Okay.
best music video.
Yeah, I haven't seen all of them. Chris and I watched the one for Slow Days a few days ago, and it was interesting.
Changed us.
So that's Long Season. I mean, it's a piece of work, and I feel like I don't understand it fully because it always makes me feel something different.
I feel like how many times I've listened to it. I don't know if I
Maybe, you've
understand it,
listened
but
to it
I
more than me.
I think I have a pretty solid grasp on it. But even then, there's a lot
we're not
to
going to
learn.
rank like. I mean, I guess we could say what each of our favorite parts is, but I at least do like a top 3 moments maybe in the song.
Well, you guys already know my favorite part 4.
Okay. Yeah.
I can say that with confidence. Like part 5 comes close, and so does part 1. But part 4, yeah. So it was a shame to hear like on the '98 version, despite that being 100 times better than it, that the part 4 was different. But the part 4 here is choice.
What about your favorite moment?
Favorite moment?
Like a small. Don't do the splashing sound.
For a while, I would have told. For a while, I honestly would have said the vocal contribution of part 2. But I think not anymore. That's sort of, I don't dislike it anymore.
Or at least for this version of Long Season, because that's not in the other ones.
Yeah, like that part is really cool.
kind of
despite
a
her
thing.
sounding
Out of
questionable.
place.
Just a little bit.
Little bit.
But my favorite moment.
It's hard because like I know in
Yeah.
in '98 I have a favorite moment, and it's about like right before the song ends. I think you guys know what I mean. There's that moment when Shinji's like in the season, and then it all like comes crashing back in with the melody. But that moment isn't in the studio version. So
No, but there is a moment where I don't know if this would be my favorite moment either, because it is kind of, I guess it is specific enough. There's just like a violin part that plays. There's a violin part that plays near the end of the song. It's not super.
I think I know what you mean.
Yeah, like when that violin comes back, like near the last few minutes, like before the vocals really come out. Like I really like the way that sounds.
It's very sort of like that's what I meant when I said her crazy like violin solo.
Yeah.
It's very like it's hard to describe. She's like playing very high.
Yeah.
And it's not like sustained notes. It's a lot of like it's very sharp kind of.
Oh wait, are you talking about like?
Are you?
I'm talking about something else.
Oh.
No, I know. What
There's
you're
so
talking
many
about.
good violin parts.
Yeah, the violin part, like that's the part near the end of like part 4.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
Yeah,
what
no,
I'm talking about.
that part's really cool. I like what she's doing there. I'm talking about
one
like
later on.
There's like a melodic line
Okay.
that she
Yeah,
plays
yeah.
later on that I really like. Also like the introduction.
Yeah.
The whole song.
I guess mine would be I don't know, maybe the children's choir, but maybe I feel like
That's
I
up
would
there too,
I would
yeah.
shout out just the crazy the drum solo and all of the noises, because I feel like this is probably the best version of Long Season for that. It's like it's kind of specific to this version.
Yeah.
So that'd be my favorite part. What about you, Jake?
Ooh, one moment, right?
Yeah.
It's tough to say because it all like forms a whole so
Yeah.
much. It like forms this one whole. But I don't know. Maybe the part where the guitar kind of like arpeggiates a little bit and Shinji kind of hits the like get around in the season thing.
Oh.
Like-
yeah.
That specifically. I mean, more so in '98, but it always hits. I don't know.
I also want to say again, not really a moment. There are these like deeper vocals, like these lower vocals that play like in part 5.
Yeah.
That are a little more pronounced in the '98 version.
Shout out
but
Darts.
I also think that's dark. They
Yeah, I
sound
think
kind
in
of
the live version he's doing a similar thing.
yeah, and like they're kind of goofy, but they're really good too. I don't know, they like really work, and like it's I don't know, it's a song like not taking itself like too seriously. Like they're not out of place at all, but they're just very wonderful. Hearing this,
I don't remember this.
really like
I listened to it like 2 hours ago and I don't remember that part. I need to listen again.
they're like kind of in the background, like in part 5. They're just like these lower vocals that are just playing. They're singing like long sustained notes.
Are you talking about like the
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
That bit. Yeah.
So rating this album, it's perfect. Do you think it's perfect, Chops?
I would probably give it like an 8 or something, just because it's been improved, and that improvement is what I always go to way before this version.
Yeah, that's why I feel
So
about
it's nothing personal.
this idea of like once you give everything a 10, it starts like it's hard to differentiate between them. You know what I mean? Because like I feel like this for me, like this one and the other live versions are all perfect, but they're like different levels of perfect. So I get it's differentiate how you feel. But I don't know, this one I would say it's almost one of those things that I certainly enjoyed. I don't want to say that it's one of those albums that I appreciate more than I enjoy, but I really don't return to this out of like the 3 main versions of Long Season being like this one, Live 96 and Live 98. I probably listen to this one the least, but it's still like their most monumental work. And I would honestly say in the Setagaya trilogy, this is the one I listen to the least. I would say that it's my least favorite album in the Setagaya trilogy, and I know that might be a hot take. But I don't know.
And Kuchu is a 10, by the way.
Oh yeah. You were on our last one, but I was talking about how Kuchu is like my favorite Fishmans album. Yeah.
I mean, it's
Hell
not.
yeah. Same. Favorite studio.
Heck yeah. I'm giving you like a virtual fist bump.
I love PewDiePie.
Oh, does he do that? Oh no.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
He infected the community, and now
Oh my god.
he's ruined.
Oh god damn.
Are fist bumps now like
They're canceled.
are they like
Next time I see you do a fist bump, I'm gonna fist
are they
bump
a
in the
dog
face.
whistle for the alt-right? Damn.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So I mean, it's just hard to talk about for me because it's so perfect, but it's also not something I engage with a ton. But I think we articulated why, because it's just so sprawling, and it feels better for me when I don't listen to it super often. What about you, Chris? You think it's perfect, right?
I do think it's perfect, and I agree with what you say about it being like, because we've talked about this before, this is early on when you first listened to them both, that like the 98 version is more like the sound of like, it's like celebratory. It's like a big
That
moment.
one's certainly joyous. This one is a bit more like strange.
Yeah, that's what it is. I listen to like 98 Long Season because I want to like feel something crazy, or like hear those like really specific moments.
Yeah.
Where this one I'll put on to listen to the whole thing as like just one big experience that's like a lot less happy. I don't know. It's perfect though. I don't know. Recently I've been really like Kuchu's really been growing on me, so I don't know if I'm gonna call that like my least favorite anymore. But I also don't want to say that it's better than Long Season either.
When I feel like that's why it's fair to call this your least favorite in the Setagaya trilogy, because like if there weren't other versions of the song and this was the only version, I would probably want to give it like more love.
Yeah.
But since I know that I can say that this is my least favorite thing in the Setagaya trilogy, but still be like Live Long Season on 98 is better than anything ever. So yeah, you know. But
there you go. That is our.
So good.
It is perfect. Long Season.
Anything else that we have to say about?
I think we've just about covered it.
I was telling Chris I want a short season where they just like play the melody once and then just dip.
There you go.
That'd be good.
Yeah, because there's season, but there's not short season. Season is
Medium
shorter
season.
medium season. There you go.
God.
Have you ever seen that thing on YouTube, the Shortles?
What?
No.
People are like, I think it's this one person like making really like short 10-second edits of Beatles songs. They've got a Hard Day's Short and stuff like that. Yeah,
Do they sound
the magic
good?
of the Shortles. I mean, they're 10 seconds long. I don't know.
God.
I wouldn't listen to them over the normal version myself, but he needs to do that with Season, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Shortmans. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's the album. So man, we only have one more studio album.
Hey, it's my favorite album
Uchu
ever.
Nippon Setagaya. The
It's not.
Shinji solo album. And then I mean, so I think the layout for the rest of the year. I mean, we're gonna talk about Uchu next month, and then we have 2 live albums to talk about. There's gonna be Hachigatsu and the what's the other one called? The other one that isn't 98.
Oh, 96, 12.
96, yeah.
26.
And then we'll talk about 98. And then it'll be all the albums.
Well, wouldn't we talk about 96 first?
Yeah, we'll talk
and
about
then
96,
Yeah.
96. But Uchu and then 96 and then Hachigatsu. Yeah.
That sounds like the move.
Yeah.
I can't believe we just recorded probably for a while our most popular episode. I'm calling it
must
now.
be.
This or
It must
Kuchu.
be.
Like this is definitely going to be. So for all the hundreds of people that will listen to this.
PewDiePie, come on the show. We'll talk to you about Fishmans. We will debate you.
Billie Eilish, if you're listening to, Kenichi Motoge, if you're listening to this too, Shinji Sato. Wait,
Yeah.
anything else?
Just get a round table, put them together.
There you go. Everyone
Yeah,
together.
Fascinating group of individuals. Do we have any updates on the Fishmans movie?
No.
No? Okay, never mind.
At least not that I know any. What's up?
Guys, I may have some insider
Oh
info.
yeah, I was gonna ask you because we had mentioned before on the podcast how like you have your list where you translate things, and Rate Your Music was like, hey, look at this list, and then Fishman saw that and they were like, we like your list. So what came of that?
Well, they weren't, sadly, planning on having me ask them any questions. They directed me to the woman who is making the Fishman's movie to help correct some of my translations.
Oh.
So did you like message Fishmans and they're like, oh wait, actually we don't want to talk to you, or what?
No, they were like, they were very, very nice and courteous and like very polite and awesome. And they told me to message this woman and gave me her email. And I haven't exchanged much words with her. I only was able to confirm a few translation bits, but I think she did mention what is the, like, when the Fishman's movie is supposed to be slated for release.
Is she the
I'm going through my
director
email
of the film, or just like a producer?
I think so. I don't know if I can say what
a secret.
when the I don't know if it's classified information when it's supposed to
I
be
guess
coming
you
out.
could tell us if it's coming like soon or if it's coming like
later than
we might expect.
Okay, if you're listening to this podcast, don't tell anyone else this information. Okay, so
but that's not like
that's
a
an
wide
exclusive.
release.
Don't tell anyone else. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no,
I mean, you
sure.
just told the whole world, but yeah.
But no, but they're not going to tell anybody else.
That's
so
true.
we're
Yeah,
fine.
if you're listening to this podcast,
Chris, remove it in post, and don't let Kyle get to it. Okay, he'll put it on the wiki or something.
but that's kind of vague. You're not handing out a release date. It's just like, you know.
Yeah.
I'll cut
Same
this
as-
section
yeah.
out.
No, it's an exclusive.
No, but we don't have the permission to release this exclusive information.
Oh, you know what you should do? You should play
Well,
this
also,
section,
it
but
might-
just put a beep over when he said it was going to come out.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
really funny.
do that. Do that.
So if
I
you're
will.
listening, I mean, Chops just told us when it's coming out, but like, I don't know, you'll have to wait.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I
We'll
just-
talk about it when it comes out.
It might already be released information. To be fair, I don't even know. So.
We'll check, and then we'll either beep it or not beep it based
I'm
on
gonna
what
beep
happened.
it either way because I think that'll be really funny. Here's another. Okay, here's another piece of information I'm gonna beep. But it sounded like him. It's
Yeah.
got to be him. It's got his like big username too. Like that's like his username on Instagram. It's like a bunch
Which is
of
good because I
numbers.
feel like, I mean, if people are worried about whether or not the movie will come out over here, like, it probably won't get like a theatrical release or anything, but I'm sure the band is aware that they're like a large part of their fan base is over here, and they'll at least do like a digital
Yeah.
release or have some way for us to see it. So I'm not worried
There
about
better be like subtitles.
Hopefully, we won't have to like pirate it. I would not want to do that. I want to support the band.
Oh, Kyle will do his thing. He'll put it up somewhere.
Yeah, Kyle is.
So I'm hoping they could just put it on like Vimeo or something, maybe behind like a paywall, but like I would still watch it.
Yeah, I think that would be best. I'd like to give them my money for such a
Yes,
thing
please.
because I haven't bought any Fishman's music, sadly. So
We're not all rich like Chris, buying like 2 different Fishmans vinyls.
Yeah.
And long season.
imported vinyl.
It
Yes.
smells like Japan.
It's not true. It doesn't smell like Japan.
All right, I guess we should wrap up this episode. You can cut out some of the stuff that was said if we're like spilling the tea.
I'll
But,
just beep out the. Yeah.
Thanks for listening, and Long Season is incredible. Go listen to Season because it's a little
Also listen to I
underrated.
Love Fish.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I'm excited for Uchu
Yeah.
and the future of Fishmans. Good.
Stay fishy.
Also, like, you should stop recording. Keep talking.
I'm unstuck with